Good news. I am less than 2 weeks from being completed, and I will be on the road bringing you my normal travel stuff. I cannot wait to get out there. Oh, I feel like a caged animal. Anyway, so really looking forward to that. What I need to tell you before I let you know about today's video is that I've created a new shop on 4xOverland.com/shop, and it is really for Australians, because up to now everything was merch and stuff was shipped into Australia, and then so the shipping costs were ridiculous. So we've actually created a store here in Australia, so you're going to save a lot on shipping. There's also channel merch for everybody, and some nice caps, t-shirts and other new merchandise as well. I need to tell you about that. This video though is I put it together as a kind of an intermediate, because I knew that this stage I would be frantically busy with the troop carrier and not really have time to make too many videos, and I'm kind of done with building videos for now. This one is about some of the more disappointing products that I've come across in my almost 40 years of driving overland vehicles. Now, I did a video last year or the year before about the ARB tire pressure monitoring system. I'm going to begin my test and review of ARB's tire pressure monitoring system. And the reason why it was so bad was simply that while it was very awkward to fiddle and set up and didn't work properly. Okay, just do it, please. I guess with enough persuasion I might have been able to get it to work. My second attempt has failed, but it doesn't measure high temperature, doesn't give an alarm for high temperature. The whole point of a tire pressure monitoring system is to warn you of imminent tire failure, okay? Which means it's going down or it's getting too hot. So it doesn't do half of the job it's supposed to do. And so that was, to me, one of the worst products. But I did document that. I'm going to look at some of the others that I think are very poor. In the realm of auxiliary battery charging, split charging systems, I remember I started, and I've had many in my various vehicles, I started with an item made by Warn. It was basically a diode box. This was the first one I'd ever discovered, but I ever found and tried, but I discovered it was actually draining the current from the auxiliary battery. So the auxiliary battery would go flat long before it was made flat by batteries and things, and it wouldn't charge properly, and it would never get to 100% charge ever. So it kind of worked, and then suddenly the auxiliary battery would be completely flat, and I'd be wondering why. So, and I found out after a while, well, one trip, actually I'm better off without it and just run a cable, fuse the batteries and run a cable. When I worked on Cameron and Kate's Nissan X-Trail, we had a simple cable running from the auxiliary battery to the starter battery.
That is the size cable that you want.
Okay.
So we just grab, what do you think, 5 meters, 6 meters?
And we turned it off and turned it on manually to separate it when camped, so it wouldn't, their fridges and lights wouldn't drain the start battery. It actually works.
The one thing you don't want to save on is a good connection from the front to the back.
It actually doesn't work badly at all. The danger, of course, is, oh, I forgot, my start battery is flat. But it worked for them perfectly adequately. And we put good heavy cables. So that's my small fuse box for this end of the battery. Solid connectors and minimized voltage drop all along the way. And it works. And so you have input current, and a simple voltage meter will give you an idea of how your battery is doing. Split charge systems have been, there have been manual ones like that, plus a solenoid. So there's actually a switch. As you turn off the ignition, click, a solenoid separates the battery. Sounds good? It sounds good, but it isn't good. There have been electronic ones. The first electronic one was a Gemini. Don't remember too much about it. It wasn't terribly good, and when it finally failed, it failed on a trip. Been met this morning with a problem with the cruiser. The split charge battery system has failed. And I suddenly had flat batteries, but I sorted it out and I was okay. Sorted it out with the old runner cable. So I've come to a conclusion. All split charge battery systems yet made will fail. It's just a matter of time. They're all rubbish. But the one that's been on the market, which I regard as a very poor product, I've experienced it on 2 separate occasions where it has been fitted to vehicles that I have been loaned. These were rental vehicles. Just 6-8 weeks ago, Cameron's father, actually a little longer, maybe 6 months ago, whatever, bought a Land Cruiser Prado 120, and it had an auxiliary battery system, and got a message. Oh, the auxiliary battery is flat all the time. I think I might have to replace it, but it seems to accept a good AC charge. Well, there you go. That's it. And I said, is there a solenoid system in the car? And the answer was yes. I said, take it out. Problem solved. All right. And the can you hear that inverter has just turned off? Don't know if you noticed that, the sound of the fan inverter. I'll get to that in a minute. All of the ones that I've had experiences of, and all of the ones that are particularly bad, is the National Lunar solenoid split charge system. The trouble is with it. It has so many connections on the way that the voltage drop is so high that the auxiliary battery can never get a full charge, ever. But even if the voltage drop was extremely low, it will never get 100% charge. The proof that it was this system that was at fault is that to get the fridge to work at all, after about 4 days of non-stop driving, the battery should be at a very high level of charge, but it wasn't. It was at a very low level of charge. That's because the voltage just wasn't getting to the battery. So every day it was going down and down and down and down, while the engine was trying to keep the battery at a reasonable state of charge. The fridge was running all the time, so eventually the fridge would only run with the start battery connected, i.e. with the ignition on and the engine running, so with the start battery being charged. And it was the National Lunar system. It's one of the worst four-wheel drive products I have ever encountered in my life. It's terrible. It's absolutely terrible. It's a good idea. I was going to say it's a good idea badly thought out, but I think it's a bad. Solenoid switching systems don't work. They don't work properly, you know. And the trouble is with them, they kind of work. So everybody with one, when you go out on a trip, you always give your auxiliary battery a full charge from the AC before you leave, don't you? Yes, I can see you nodding your heads. Yes, we do. You know something? You shouldn't have to. Because if the charging system worked properly, you don't have to. And if you run a straight cable without all of that nonsense, and remember to turn it off at night, you won't have to. You can rely on the car's charging. So, that inverter. Another lemon goes to the red arc inverters. I'm assuming you can hear that. That is a 2000 watt red arc inverter that I have in my workshop, and at the moment the ambient temperature is 26 degrees and the current energy draw is 11 watts, and yet that has been screaming at me for the last 20 minutes. They are not bad inverters, no. They're overpriced and poor value for money inverters, all right? Because for far less money, you can get an inverter every bit as good, I noticed, the first time I noticed it was with the 3000 watt inverter in the camper, the Dream Tourer, making coffee that morning. Do you remember the noise? Dealing with the fact that I now have such a powerful system that I can make myself a really nice cup of coffee with my little coffee machine. That morning we were using about 1.6 kilowatts from that inverter. And I found, in fact, if I turned almost anything on, very soon after turning it on, that inverter, even the 3 kilowatt, would howl. This one in the workshop drives me crazy because I want to film in here and it's so noisy. So I'm going to get rid of it. And what amazes me about that is that Red Arc, I'm the first one, I'm a big Red Arc fan. Okay, I need to say that right now. Huge. They make some of the best DC-DC chargers out there, period. They're outstanding. They make their solar panels, excellent. Now they don't make the solar panels themselves, they ship them in, probably from China, but they're very good, okay? Their electronic braking systems, they make themselves, very good. DC-DC chargers, as I said, make them themselves, very, very good. Then they import and have, made for them a version of another inverter that you can actually buy. They're made in China and they label them Red Arc and paint them red, and yet the quality is so ordinary. I know that people at Red Arc will see this. I don't understand it. It's the same with ARB. You make so many great products, okay? And then you get somebody who is obviously unqualified to know what is important with a tire pressure monitoring system to bring in a product that is so clearly so inferior. It's inferior in the marketplace and it makes your brand look bad. Red Arc, you're doing exactly the same with the inverters. You're making your brand look bad because most of your stuff is top-notch, and that is poor. Well, not poor. Noisy. Unnecessarily noisy. In 2018, I traveled with Jeremy to Hwange National Park in Zimbabwe. Let's make fun of camping gear. We will again rent a rental vehicle, and we had big problems with the fridge, and I actually eventually ran a separate earth cable from the start battery all the way to the back, and we kind of managed to get the battery to get a bit of a charge, at least so the fridge would run properly while we were driving. It would turn off at night, every single night. But the trip highlighted another appallingly bad product. In South Africa, you guys are still using these.
You might find that other people like to talk about things in a positive light. We don't.
And that is the Kadak cooker.
Case in point, let's talk clearly about this burner this morning.
Kadak is a South African company, beloved South African camping company that is still living in the Stone Age.
We're going to do everything from now on in a 1960s American game show voice.
Their burner is inefficient, does not begin to describe how bad the burners are.
Our first question of the day. When was the Kadak burner invented? Andrew, go ahead.
1897.
Wrong! It was 1898.
And they came up with they being Kadak, a couple of ideas called a skottel, basically like a round plowshare.
Good morning.
Which was a great idea, but very, very badly executed, because it used to get these terrible hot spots. We used them for camping for years, and they were kind of the go-to. And at the time, Kadak was the go-to brand, and we put up with these, we carried these very large gas bottles, which are difficult to stow in the vehicle, and potentially unsafe, because you've got this very heavy mass, you need to find a way to tie it down. And these burners that used so much gas for so little heat, because all the heat so much of the heat just shoots out of the side. So we've been using we've just made a rudimentary thing out of tin foil to try and keep the heat in. And the interesting thing about KDAK is that they're still making those burners. They're not that cheap. It's like when I say they're living in the Stone Age, you haven't moved forward, KDAK, at all. Even the design of the bottom of your gas tanks is annoying. So when you put it on the ground, grit and gravel and sand gets collected in the little thing under there, and so when you put it in the vehicle, it transports sand and grit into your vehicle, back in and out again. And yet, South Africans, you're still using it. Step into the 20th century, guys. And even the 21st. There's some really amazing kit out there. So what's the alternative? The alternative is use small canister gas. Because the cookers are so much better. So your mental attitude is, well, I need that much gas. The only reason why you need that much gas is because the burners are so efficient. You don't need that much gas. You need a quarter of that much gas if you used burners that are more efficient. And in fact, those really inexpensive burners that you can buy for $20 or so, that I picked up on my trip crossing Australia with the Range Rover. You know, these little stoves, $20. Those little burners, there is nothing wrong with them, okay? Nothing wrong with them. And actually reasonably good and so much more efficient. So instead, use a dedicated water boiler for boiling water. You will use less than 1/10 of the gas used with a KDAK system. I have had this one for over 10 years, one of my favorite bits of kit. When it comes to torches, I'm a big fan of Nightcore. This is the one that I called the Sun. Watch this. I'm going to call it the Sun. Beautiful, beautiful flashlights. But you know something? Disappointing. They send me stuff every now and again, and actually they haven't sent me stuff for a while. I have to now ask for stuff when I see stuff that I really like, and I've got a lot of torches. But they send these through. These are their various types of head lanterns. And to a man, Nightcore headlamps are disappointing. And this is a perfect case in point. When this is on my head, okay, and I want to turn it on, I can't feel a thing. It's absolutely smooth. There's nothing to indicate to me that there is an on-off switch or a dimming switch anywhere. So I have to guess. Okay, there you go. So now I want the white ones to come on, please. So there you go. What's that doing? That's flashing. Okay. Something's flashing. Okay, there you go. I've got it to work. Brilliant. Now, and I'm going to do something, and I want to turn it off or dim it. Okay, is it this one or is it this one? Okay. Okay, what's it doing there? This is what I'm talking about. I don't know. I don't know. And because there is no way of feeling, no feeling at all in that, if I've got gloves on, useless if I've got gloves on. I don't wear gloves at night very often because I'm in a warm environment. What about people in, camping in North America and Europe and cold places with a glove? Useless with a glove, with gloves. Here's another torch that's useless with gloves. And this is my favorite current torch. The reason why I like it is it's they call it dual fuel. It's Nightcore. It has a means of charging it through USB, and it can use different battery sizes. I have different torches. In fact, it can also use the batteries that come out of this, same size as that. So it's really versatile, and it is brilliantly bright, very, very good. And also the control over the brightness is very good. Okay, so it can, and what's actually as important to me in a flashlight like this is that how dull it can go. So the first step is really useful around the camp because you don't want to be blinded by reflection. And of course, this is really nice in that it goes brighter and brighter and brighter. Okay, but here is the problem. Okay, turn it off at the back. I like that, so it's got a big switch at the back. I like the combination. Here's the problem. Can you see where the control switch is? It's somewhere around here. It doesn't stick out. There's no, I actually have to look at the torch to find it. My fingers cannot find it. It's completely flush. It's actually there. It's completely flush. So how am I going to operate this torch with gloves? Because I can't feel it with my naked thumb. Okay, so now I pick up the torch because I want to use it, because it's dark. I now look at the torch and I can't see a thing. And yet I've got to figure out where this tiny little button is. I need a torch to operate the torch. I'm sorry, that is ridiculous. And the reason why it's kind of the one that I'm using and it's clamped in my vehicle, because it has such a great range from dull to seriously bright. So it does that very well, but ergonomically, Nightcore, ergonomically, your torches suck. Even this one is a bit of a pain. It's okay. Is that going to work? Yes, it is. All right, and then I go brighter. Okay. Yeah, it's okay. Exactly the same thing. And with gloves, useless, because the two control buttons are so close together and there is nothing sticking out so that I can feel them. So I have to look at them. So I need a torch to operate the torch, I honestly think this Army Tech, now the actual model name, but the Army Tech little head torch that I use is the ELFC1 multi flashlight. It's USB chargeable. It's got a great big enormous button on top of it, so I can go there it is, on, off, hold it down, whatever. Very good ergonomically, but not as good as the in terms of the light performance of the Nightcore. So now my head torch is an Army Tech and my hand torches are these very good but quite frustrating flashlights. When it comes to tools, I'm loving this Milwaukee stuff. I've never been able to really, never kind of splashed out like I have with this to buy a whole lot of new tools. The Milwaukee stuff is very, very nice. In fact, Milwaukee tools are so good. You'll notice that their meter slightly longer than everyone else. The other tools that I really, really like, Star-Willy spanners. Star-Willy socket sets, I can get them here in Australia. They're extremely expensive and beautiful, beautiful tools. I've still got a lot of my old South African Gedor, which is a German manufacturer, but they actually had they made a lot of tools in South Africa. And I've still got some of my old Gedor stuff. Some of my smaller, they're half-inch socket sets. Gedor socket sets are very, very nice. Their other socket sets, they're okay. They're not very nice ratchets, but not bad at all. I can't think of any tools that I've really thought were poor. If I think about tents, there are not a lot of tents that have driven me crazy. And I remember once being in the United Arab Emirates with Sean and Andronette, and we were given a kind of a rooftop tent, which is actually on the back of the 6-wheel drive Land Cruiser, and that tent was a cheap Chinese copy of something like an Easy On tent. And Easy On were one of the first people to actually design, come up and develop and market around the world the rooftop tent, as it became known. And that was a Chinese copy, and it was appallingly bad. Everything about it was so bad, and I remember it frustrated me enormously. I will now go back and have a look at some of that footage, and I probably filmed my frustration, but I probably didn't use the footage in the film. Let me go and see. On the outside, of course, it looks like a pretty ordinary rooftop tent. Whoever designed it hasn't done a lot of camping. Okay, well, just you might find some of these things a bit nitty-picky, but at the end of the day, you're spending the same amount of money on something like this as a Howling Moon or an Easy On. They're fine products, well-developed products, which this isn't. For example, I could not get this level, so this is slightly up, so my feet were slightly higher than my head. I could have slipped the other way, of course, but this, I couldn't get it down because there's a size issue, okay? And when it is down, I had this draft of cold air on me here, and they put this flap here, okay, but it doesn't fit. If I put it like that, then it's missing the Velcro. Can you see what I mean? And I look at that and think, what? Did they not measure that? Well, obviously they didn't, okay? There is a similar thing in the front and the back. There's a hole. There's a vent inside on top, so the design is obviously for dry weather, warm weather, which is nice. The vent inside I liked. In the heat of the day, it'll allow air to escape. Last night we had a very heavy mist, and everything touching this material got wet. In fact, it got almost soaked. Luckily, it was a day where we had a lot of dry, a lot of warm sunshine, so everything dried out. The advantage of a rooftop tent, let me put it to you this way, is so that you can pack all of your sleeping gear, your pillows, your sleeping bags, and you get them out of the way. Because they're so big and they're bulky, you've got this big bulky thing on your roof rack, put sleeping bags and mattresses in it. And what they've done is they've designed it so you can't do that. Because to make it look good on the showroom floor, because it looks more compact. Compact isn't good. You don't want a compact rooftop tent. And a lot of rooftop tent makers will, they'll call their things featherlight or they're ultralight or whatever, because they want to say, oh, it's lightweight. But what they do is they actually skimp majorly on the tent's practicality. So while your having might be a lighter thing, it's not practical, and that little bit of weight advantage is negated by the fact that you can't use the rooftop tent for its primary advantage, which is A, getting out of the wind with very light fabric that flaps around like crazy, very uncomfortable night, and of course you're higher up, so the wind blows faster away from the ground than it does closer to the ground, and you can't pack your pillows. And this is suffering from those particular maladies. The way this tent packs up, the design is one of the worst off-road equipment designs I've seen yet. What about fridges? I've used Engel was my first fridge, excellent. I had Dometic, I had National Lunar, Snowmaster, did I mention ARB? And the only one that stands out as being poor, especially poor, was the Dometic. And here again, I don't know why these companies do it. A Dometic fridge is not actually a bad fridge, but boy do they make some bad ones. So they make some okay ones, and they make some terrible ones. Shockingly bad, very high current draw, unreliable, when, yes, they're inexpensive, when for a little bit more money, you can actually get out of the same factory a rebranded Dometic, but the quality is much, much higher. So if I was buying a fridge now, I would say, yeah, avoid Dometic. And it's actually unfair to them because some, as I said, some quite good, but some are so bad, I would just have to say, well, just avoid them. Okay. And again, here's a brand that is brought down by just some of their products, not all of their products. And you know, one or two bad products can ruin the entire reputation of a brand. It doesn't make sense to me. The best fridges out there, I think Snowmaster is the best value for money fridge you can buy. Closely followed by ARB, and they have them made somewhere else. They don't make them themselves, but yeah, pretty good value for money. National Luna fridge, excellent fridge. Not great value for money because they're quite expensive, but as a performer, definitely, maybe even the best, maybe, certainly right up there. Engel is mixed. That when they first, the early Engel fridges were a revelation, and you know, they trade on that reliability thing, and they are very reliable. I don't think they're as reliable as they once were, but that they're very reliable, very efficient on current when the compressor is spinning, but very poor, not very poor, a bit poor on current draw when it comes to the cyclic rate, because their insulation is not particularly good. Well, when I say that, it's not bad, but it's not as good as National Luna or Snowmaster. Okay, so overall the amount of current draw from an Engel is, while it's spinning less, but it spins more often because of the insulation. So the cyclic current draw of an Engel is probably not the best. It's good, but probably not the best. Who is the best? I don't know. You'd have to put all these fridges stand by next to each other. I would say that my guess is National Luna might be the best, and Snowmaster is probably very close behind. I'm guessing here. It's just my impression of what people say about their fridges and what I know about the development of compressor-driven 12-volt fridges. Right, tyres. Frustrating tyres. I can only think of. Look, I've had some disappointing tyres, but then I've had some tyres that were very disappointing, and then subsequently, after I got one of the first sets of the Bridgestone 694, and I had them first on my second Geländewagen, and they were very good in terms of their performance in mud. They were, I thought, better than the BF Goodrich all-terrain in mud, but their weakness was a massive one, and that is they fell apart. What could have done that? What could have actually pulled the middle out of a tyre like this? They were very poor in terms of their being able to take a lot of punishment, and so I had them on two vehicles, and then the first time I actually did a really rough, demanding trip on the tyres, that was in 2008, and they fell apart. Anyway, the big question is, what do I do now? I mean, I can replace it, but I've only got one more spare. And this tyre has been so badly damaged that I can't even fit a tube and keep it running. It is trash. Subsequently, and at that stage, they hadn't been on the market for very long, and further research indicated that other people were feeling the same way. So, and you know, the thing is with this, it taints an entire brand. Not all BF Goodrich, not all Bridgestone tyres are poor at all. No, they're not. The 694 was designed for heavy-duty use, all-terrain light truck tyre. They were poor. And I noticed that Bridgestone are not part of tyrereview.com.au. I think a very good website. Why aren't they involved? I can only conclude that they don't have enough confidence in their own product. I started using Falcon tyres in end of 2018, early 2019. After BF Goodrich, I was a brand ambassador for BF Goodrich.
What a surprise finding you out here, Andrew.
Again.
Everyone, this is Andrew St. Pierre White. He's one of the BF Goodrich ambassadors.
For 2 years, and then they cancelled that, and I decided, not because the tyres are bad, I just decided it would be a good idea to try another brand. And I tried Falcon after a lot of research, and I'm very pleased with the Falcon tyres. They grip well on a gravel road. They grip very well on a tar road. I haven't driven in the wet yet. Not a single puncture at this point. Give me a year or so, then I can probably do a more valuable review. I've used the muds and the all-terrains, and have in fact decided to fit a set of two 6.5/75 mud terrain Falcons on the new troop carrier. Okay, I think the BF Goodrich has got a big challenge now with its brand, in that some of its tyres are now no longer made in the USA, they're made in Asia. And there is a definite quality difference between the ones made in Asia and the ones made in the United States, because the comebacks are unusual for BFG comebacks, Asian made tyres. So my recommendation is, in terms of BFG, yeah, try and get ones that are made in the USA. If not, stipulate it, because then you know you're getting a genuine BFG and you're buying that reputation that is so good. If you buy ones that are made in Asia, you're not paying for that reputation. They're not as, I don't believe they're as good, because they are as good. Because why suddenly, since they were being made in Asia, are there far more than normal comebacks on BF Goodrich tyres? One can only come to one conclusion: they're not as good. Other than that, I can't think of any tyre that I've thought to myself, oh, these are pretty terrible. So those do actually stand out in the list of tyres that I've had on my various vehicles. Apart, of course, those of you who are familiar with the vehicles I've driven, the Michelin tyres fitted to my Range Rover between 1982 and 1991, when I sold it. They were bad. They would disintegrate and they would get so hot and they would disintegrate, and I had a total of 3 catastrophic blowouts while the car was at speed, and one where I actually caught it while doing an inspection under the vehicle at a refueling stop in, I think it was Namibia. Very tough going on the vehicle, and the tyres would rip to shreds. They were very poor tyres. Nostalgia, thing of the past, really. See you next time. Thank you so much for watching. 4xOverland is truly independent of sponsors, and that means that our opinions, reviews and commentary cannot be influenced by commercial interests. Help us stay independent by joining our Patreon family now. Details in the video description.